You're listening to the Be Who You Came to Be podcast. I'm your host, Tara Renze, and today I have a very special guest, someone who's been an amazing mentor to me, a friend, and I'm just going to tell you right now, she's a total badass. And today we have Alison Levine on the show. She is a history-making polar explorer, a mountaineer, an extraordinary guest, a motivational speaker, a best-selling author, a leadership consultant. You guys, wait until you hear everything that she's been up to. She led the first American women's Everest expedition, climbed the highest peaks on each continent, and skied to both the North and South Pole, completing what's known as the Adventure Grand Slam. Listen to this. Fewer than 20 people worldwide have actually done this. But before conquering the world's most extreme environments, she's navigated the corporate world. She worked at Goldman Sachs. She got her MBA from Duke. You know, I'm a Kansas fan, but we won't get into that too much on the show today. And here's one of the coolest things that I found in Alison's little resume treasure chest. She was the finance director for Arnold Schwarzenegger's campaign.
Deputy finance director.
Oh, deputy finance director.
Yeah, the finance director was my boss.
I missed deputy here in my thing. Deputy finance director to, our favorite Arnold, the Terminator. But get this, here's the thing. It hasn't just been, a cakewalk for Alison. She has actually had a lot of health issues, 3 heart surgeries. And is it Raynaud's? Is that how you say this?
Yeah. Well
Raynaud's, which as a Mount Everest climber, you would not think that anyone with Raynaud's would want to climb a mountain because the condition makes it very hard for people to work in cold weather and to climb. So you guys, she's a TEDx storyteller. She's absolutely amazing. Enough for me. Alison, hi, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Wait, I have to also add dog lover. I don't know if that was in there, but very, very important.
Dog lover for sure. We are both dog lovers. I love dogs so much. I'm obsessed with them. Even though I've been bit twice, once in the face, and I have this scar on my face. Can you see this scar right here?
No.
You're watching. I have a scar here and here from when I was a kid. I got bit in the face. Yeah, but I still love dogs.
Okay.
I do get a little pissy when someone doesn't have their dog on a leash, but
I get it.
They're always like, he's nice. I'm like, yeah, until he attacks me. Oh my gosh. Well, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I'm going to tell everyone. So a little backstory is Alison and I did an event together. I think it was like 2.5 years ago. And, obviously she is way further along in her speaking career than I am, and certainly was 2.5 years ago. And I was so ambitious and just wanting to do everything, but she has known my passion for being a mom and being home. And she was one of the few people that gave me the advice that I needed to hear in the speaking biz, which was, hey, the stages are always going to be there. Don't miss this time with your kids. And I can't tell you how much I appreciated that and how much your general honesty and just love and empathy for what I was going through meant to me, because so many people did not give me that advice.
It's interesting because you think about it. You're never going to get that time with your kids back.
Yeah.
Ever. And it's true. The stages will always be there. But to have that time with your kids, and nothing is more important. I think nothing is more important than raising kind, compassionate children that will contribute to their communities. And you don't have to have your own kids to be a part of that. We don't have human kids. We have dogs, but I'm a godparent, and I take that very, very seriously. I'm very involved in my godchildren's lives. And I think it takes a village. It takes all of us to put the effort in and to mentor young people. And I just think that being a mom is the hardest job in the world, but the most important job in the world. And I'm so glad that you made your family and your kids a priority, because like I said, you're never going to get that time back.
Yeah. It was such refreshing advice. I think, I've worked in sales and sales leadership my whole life. And I do think the speaking industry it's very competitive. As you know, it's super competitive. And, everyone's posting and showing all their accolades and everything they're doing. And I'm like, well, I just attended a senior high school football game, and that was actually an amazing Friday night. But you know what? Everything's happened for a reason. And I really feel like by honoring exactly who I was, my message is be who you came to be. And, it was wonderful. And it meant so much coming from you, someone who's so successful in the industry.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. But really think about this. We only get one shot at life. As far as I know, I don't know, maybe we get many, who knows? But I know we get one. For sure we get one, and I don't know if we get more. But when you're on your deathbed, you're not going to say, "I really wish I had done 100 more speeches."
Yeah.
You're going to say, "I'm so glad I was a present mom for my kids."
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, no one and by the way, going back to I know social media and all the people posting, and usually it's the people posting about how busy and exhausted they are from all their speeches that are the ones that really aren't working very much. They're the ones that are faking it. So the super busy speakers aren't usually posting about how incredibly busy and in demand they are. They're just out there doing their job.
Yes, yes, for sure. Well, gosh, you have done so many things in your life, and I can't wait to we're going to dive into that, and then we'll come back to like how you've made this all. Like, I'm going to actually go tell the story on stages. But here's one of the things that I found out about you, that you didn't even climb your first mountain until you were in your 30s. You grew up in Phoenix, like you weren't a ski bunny. How did this all happen?
So, I climbed my first mountain in 1998 when I was 32 years old. And as you mentioned, I grew up in Phoenix. When I was a kid, I was absolutely obsessed with the stories of the early Arctic and Antarctic explorers and the early mountaineers. And I would read the books and I would watch the documentary films about these really cold places. And I loved the stories about the cold places because it felt like an escape from the extremely oppressive summer heat in Phoenix. So, because Arizona was so hot, I just loved the stories about the cold places. So, I'd read the books and I'd watch the documentary films. But I never thought I would go to those places because I had some health challenges. And I was born with a hole in my heart that got bigger as I got older. And so, um, I was fairly sick as a as a child and up until my teens. And when I was 17 years old, I lost consciousness, and the friends that I was with at the time had the good sense to rush me to the emergency room where I was finally properly diagnosed with this life threatening heart condition. So I had my first heart surgery when I turned 17.
Oh my
That
God.
one did not work that well, but I had a second one when I turned 30, and that one was successful. And after that, several months later, this light bulb went on in my head, and I thought, wait a minute. If I want to know what it's like to be Reinhold Messner and drag a sled across 600 miles of Antarctic ice. He actually did it for a lot longer than that. Then I should go to Antarctica and drag the sled, ski to the South Pole like Reinhold Messner did. If I want to know what it's like to be these mountaineers going to these remote mountain ranges, then I should go to the mountains instead of just reading about them. And if these other guys can do this stuff, why can't I do it too? So, yeah, I climbed my first mountain when I was 32 years old, and I'm about turning 60 next year and still going. So,
What mountain did you climb?
my first mountain was Kilimanjaro in
Oh my
Tanzania.
gosh. Like, go big or
And
go home. Like, you weren't messing around.
right, well, it's interesting because that's a mountain you do feel the altitude because it's over 19,000 feet, but you don't need any special training or expertise because it's really just a long hike at altitude. And although it's not a technical mountain, it was a really important one for me because it's where I first learned that I could keep going when I felt incredibly uncomfortable. So that was my first time at altitude. And I used frequent flyer miles. I flew over to Tanzania by myself. I
Oh
went to
my
the
gosh.
base of the mountain. I found a local guide named Sammy who charged $300 to guide me up Kilimanjaro. So I gave Sammy his 300 bucks and we went to climb this mountain. And I will never ever forget this climb because it was summit day and I had a terrible altitude headache and I felt really sick to my stomach from the altitude. And I got out of my tent and I thought, okay, I'm not going to be able to go to the summit. I'm going to have to turn back. But before I turn around, I'm just going to take a few more steps, just going to just hike over there. And so I took a few more steps and just hiked for about a minute or two. And I thought, okay, I still feel horrible, feel like I'm going to puke, banging headache.
Yeah.
I need to go down, but maybe I'll just take a couple more steps. So I took a couple more steps. All right, I know I'm not going to be able to go to the summit, but before I turn around, I'm just going to take a couple more steps, see what the view's like from over there. And I take a couple more steps. Well, eventually I made it to the summit. And it
Wow.
was such a great lesson because I learned that I could keep going when I felt incredibly uncomfortable. And on every subsequent mountain, every time I felt like that, I felt like I'm too tired. I have a headache. I feel like I'm going to puke. I would think to myself, okay, wait a minute, because I felt like this before and I kept going then, so I can keep going now. And once you really break through that extreme discomfort and figure out you can keep going even when you're really uncomfortable, you use that. It's such an important lesson. And you can use that in all kinds of situations going forward when you feel uncomfortable again.
Yeah. Mental fortitude is something, isn't I call it being mentally fit, but as an emotional intelligence practitioner, I talk so much about that our mind is, it's a terrible master, but it can be a wonderful servant if we train it to work for us versus against us. And I love that. Just like a couple more steps, just a couple more steps, just a couple more steps. Had you been in altitude before? Like I get
No,
so
never.
even going to Denver bothers me. Like I get altitude sickness. I don't feel great in the city, and I think that's why. And then we get up into the mountains, and Vail is okay because you come back down into the pass, and I feel better there. But like when we're in Breckenridge, I feel terrible.
Well, it's interesting because 8,000 feet is what's known as high altitude. So you're up there, especially, and people going to Aspen is, I think, 10,000 feet.
Right.
Uh, you're up there in altitude. That's considered high altitude. So it would make sense that you would feel uncomfortable. And a lot of people fly into Denver and go to the mountains and end up in the emergency room on some supplemental oxygen because they feel terrible from the altitude. And everybody adapts to the altitude very differently. And sometimes even elite athletes have trouble adapting to the altitude. And then someone who's a chain smoker will adapt just fine. So,
Well, you live in Denver now, and isn't like they say it's like Mile High Stadium. It's hard to play football in there.
yes, we actually live in a little town called Morrison outside of Denver. We're at 7,200 feet.
Okay, gosh. So you're up there. You're
Yeah.
up there. Okay, so you climbed this first mountain, and then were you like, this is it? Like, I want to make an entire living doing these expeditions, going to do the next thing, because it seems like things accelerated quickly after that first one.
I was so drawn to the mountains after that because I loved the physical beauty. I loved the challenge of pushing myself, and I loved the solitude. And a lot of times I'm on climbs with teammates, and that's great too. But I also really like the solitude of just going somewhere on my own, pitching a tent, and just really feeling like I'm at one with the mountain and appreciating nature and all that it offers to us. And so after Kilimanjaro, I just thought, wow, maybe I should try another mountain. What would the experience be like on a different mountain? And I started graduate school shortly after I climbed Kilimanjaro. I started business school. But at Duke, we're on 6 week terms. So every 6 weeks, you get a week off. And so then when I had time off, I went to a different mountain every single time I had a break from grad school. And I was living off of student loans and also ta racking up credit card debt during grad school. But I figured out I had a lot of frequent flyer miles from before I started grad school. So I figured out I could get almost anywhere for free. And if I could just throw everything I needed in a backpack, tent, sleeping bag, freeze dried food, camping stove, everything I needed, I could basically travel on every single break without really spending very much money at all. And so every break I went to another mountain and I figured out every single one offered me something really different and different life lessons each time. And I just wanted to do more and more and more. And of course, I spent 2 years in grad school and then had to start working, but I still was had $70,000 of student loan debt and credit card debt. So then I had to scrounge and find sponsors for every single trip. So that part adds even more work than preparing for the climb because I thought, well, I'm doing all this training, physical training to prepare for the climb, but if I don't find somebody to sponsor this trip, all this training isn't going to matter. So the fundraising
Yeah,
was a big part of it as well.
I bet. So tell us about because you've actually climbed Mount Everest twice, correct?
Yes.
So which are we going to talk about first? Because I have, I want to talk about the Women's Everest expedition, but I also want to talk about your climb the first time, the story of your friend. Just that whole thing is so inspiring. And just so you guys know, when I saw Alison speak, I was the MC for this event, so I was behind the stage, and so I didn't actually get to watch her. I I hung on every word that she was saying from the back of the stage. And I like my listeners need to know the story. There's so many beautiful things and so many lessons, gosh, that you share. Just
Thanks.
go.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So in 2002, I was asked to serve as the team captain for the first American women's Everest expedition. So the first team of American women to go to this mountain. And we were so excited and we were obviously nervous. It was a bigger mountain than any of us had climbed. But between the five of us, we had over 100 years of cumulative climbing
Right.
experience. So we were all quite experienced and excited to take on this
So who
challenge.
sponsors that? Like, is that like, so it's the Women's Everest
We
expedition for
were
the
sponsored by
American?
Ford. So Ford Motor Company was getting ready to launch the new 2003 Ford Expedition, their new full-size SUV. And a friend of mine from grad school helped us funnel the proposal that I had written up to the senior Ford executives in Michigan. They looked at our proposal and agreed to fund the entire trip. So if it weren't for Ford,
That's so cool.
I know.
Did they give you guys cool climbing gear? Like out, like, do you like how I'm asking about the outfits?
Well, what was so funny is we're actually so short, our team, that we back then there weren't that many down suits and things that were made that would fit women's sizes. It was still mostly
Right.
men's sizes back then in
Oh my gosh, can you
2002.
believe that?
I mean, now you can find tons of gear specifically made for women, but back then was really hard to find. And even men's extra small sizes were too big for us. So we had to have our down suits custom made. They were made by a company called Feathered Friends out of Seattle. So they custom made down suits for us because we were so short.
Oh, that's so
So
fun. Were they amazing? Like, I love that.
they
I just
were amazing.
oh my gosh. Yes, I love it. Okay, enough about the
I would
clothing.
get up and show you mine. You can see, let's see if I can, but I can't get up because I'm wearing pajama bottoms.
Oh, okay. We'll send them to your website and go find it there.
That's it right there. You can
Oh my
see the
gosh.
down suit that was
Yes,
custom made by Feathered Friends.
I
So there
love
you have it.
that.
So we were very excited to do this, but we also felt a tremendous amount of pressure because we had so much media coverage. We, were did the whole morning show circuit. The evening news anchors were interviewing us. Hundreds of media outlets from all over the world followed our climb. And then we ended up missing the top by that much. Bad weather came in on summit day, and we were about 270 feet from the summit, and we had to turn around in bad weather. And
And how many days had you guys been climbing?
it's it takes about 2 months to complete the whole expedition round trip. So 2 months on that mountain,
Oh gosh.
and we miss it by that much. So then you have to go back to all the same TV shows and talk about what happened. And it just felt like a bit of a punch to the gut to have this high profile failure where media all over the world is talking about the fact that you did not do it. You did not achieve your goal. You did not get to the summit. And I felt like I was on this failure tour, just going around to the media, explaining what happened and talking about the weather. And it was just hard because it was an altitude record for every single member of our team. Yet
Right.
everybody that interviewed us was just focused on this failure. And the number one goal of any expedition, number one goal, come back alive.
Right.
Right. Number two, come back with all your fingers and toes.
Hey, it's Tara here, and I've got some big news. My brand new second edition Be Who You Came to Be book is finally here. It is loaded with new secrets, new stories, and emotional intelligence tips designed to help you create, own, and live the life that each and every one of you deserve and desire. You don't need another self-help book. You need a roadmap to bring you back to exactly who it is that you came to be. The book has a fresh new look. It has this beautiful wrap cover on it. However, hiding underneath it is that original gold foil and ivory cover designed to sit on your coffee table to inspire you daily to go all in on exactly who it is that you came to be. In addition to the book, yes, I've updated the journal too, and I am obsessed. The journal is full of quotes, of prompts, and places for your wildly positive affirmations. You can head over to my website to pre-order your copy on Amazon, or as an insider, you can snag one today. This isn't just a book, it is your guide to being exactly who it is that you came to be.
When you're in the mountains, it's one of those environments where there are a lot of uncontrollable factors that are going to affect your climb. There are so many things that go on that you cannot control. And of course, the weather is the most obvious of those things. You cannot control the weather. And so you just have to adapt your plan to what is going on at the time. You can have the best laid plans in the world. But when you're in these environments that are constantly shifting and changing, which is basically the world today,
Right,
whatever plan you came up with is outdated as soon as it's finished. You
right.
take action based on the situation, not based on your plan. So we had to abandon our summit attempt. And again, I was the team captain. So I was the person that had to face all the media scrutiny and explain what happened over and over. And it took me about 8 years to get up the guts to go back to the mountain and try again. And you had mentioned climbing in honor of my girlfriend, Meg. And I had a dear, dear friend, Meg Bertay Owen, who passed away very unexpectedly at age 37. And I always said if I ever went back to Mount Everest, I would want to go with Meg because she was this amazing athlete. And after she passed away, I wanted to do something to honor her. And she was this very gutsy, courageous, brilliant, hilarious woman. And so I wanted to honor her with my climb. So I engraved her name in my ice axe and I went back to Mount Everest in 2010. And it's interesting because I did make it to the summit in 2010. And the only reason I made it in 2010, because we had a similar situation in that we were ready to go for the summit. In comes an unexpected storm again. The route was in horrible condition. Visibility was far from perfect. But because I knew what it was like to be up there, high up on that mountain in a storm, I wasn't afraid of it the second time around.
Right.
And when we turned back in 2002, there were people that went on that made it. And I thought, okay, I know people have climbed in these conditions and have made it. And if they can do it, I can do it. And what I had to realize is that if you have clarity in your intent, you do not need absolute clarity in the environment. If you wait for clarity in the environment before you go for your goal, you might be waiting around forever. You do not need absolute clarity around you in order to put one foot in front of the other. And that's how you get to the top of Mount Everest. You just put one foot in front of the other. You do not have to be the best, the fastest, and the strongest person out there on the trails every day. You have to be the person that will not quit when it gets really hard, when it gets really uncomfortable. And you cannot be the person who will turn back just because you can't see what's down the trail. You don't have to know what's coming at you down the trail. You just put one foot in front of the
The
other.
first time though, you said that you were the team captain, you were the leader. I mean, you also had a responsibility for people's livelihood, right? I mean, you couldn't have put your whole crew at risk not knowing what was up there, especially if you were getting the advice to turn around.
Exactly. Because, right, you can always go back to Mount Everest. Mount Everest, it's a pile of rock and ice. You can always go back. But if you do something dumb up there,
Right.
you may not have the opportunity to go back. And an interesting statistic is that the majority of deaths that occur on Mount Everest occur after people have reached the summit when they're on their way down because they use
Oh.
everything they've got in them, everything they've got left in their energy reserves. to get themselves to the top, and they forget that that is only the halfway point. You have to be able to get yourself all the way back down. So many times people will look at the summit and think, okay, it's just 2 hours away. I feel like I could keep plugging along for 2 hours. Okay, well, then after that, you have to get yourself all the way back down. So
Right.
that's why it's so important to really make the right call when you're up there and realize you can always go back. It's
You can
just a
yeah.
mountain.
Yeah. But I don't think the listeners probably understand how hard it is to take one step. That was one of the things that I really took away from listening to your keynote. Tell them a little bit about what it takes to take one step when you're that high.
So when you're up there in what's known as the death zone, and that's an elevation of 26,000 feet or above, also 8,000 meters. When you're above 8,000 meters or 26,000 feet, you're in the death zone. They call it this death zone because at that elevation, your body is slowly starting to die.
Mhm.
And you want to spend as little time as possible in the death zone. At that elevation, you have to take multiple breaths in order to take one step. Sometimes it could be 5 breaths or 10 breaths in order to catch your breath enough just to take one step. So think about this, right? Take a step right now and then do this. Right? That's what it's like moving up there. So it's really, really difficult when you get up that high on the mountain, when you're up in the climbing up into the death zone.
Do they have people following you? Like if you needed medical help that a helicopter would come and get you, or are they following all the climbers while you guys are climbing?
So most climbers up there will have a Sherpa or a porter or somebody else climbing with them. Like there's a lot of people up there climbing at the same time. So there's usually a team of Sherpas or porters. The porters are the ones that are not of Sherpa descent. So just to clarify, Sherpa is they are people from a certain region in Nepal. So Sherpas are they're an ethnic minority group in Nepal. So Sherpa is an ethnicity, right? People
Okay.
think Sherpa is a job of carrying things up the mountain, but the Sherpas are a minority ethnic group in Nepal. So there's Sherpas that are doctors and lawyers and librarians, and there's people working on the mountain that are ferrying loads up and down the mountain or climbing with people to the summit that are not of Sherpa descent that are they're called porters or helpers or assistant climbers or assistant guides. So when you're up there, there are usually other people up there that are prepared to help if somebody should need it. And then, of course, other climbers and other foreign guides are up there. And there's, an unwritten rule that if somebody needs help, you abandon your summit attempt and help out a climber in distress.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay, I just have to have my listeners hear the other thing that I just took away. One of the biggest takeaways, and I've thought about this so many times just with my own career, helping my kids through adversities, helping other people, was that so many people think that you climb, 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 and then you stop, and then you climb, 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 and it's like this, this upward trajectory the entire time. And I loved what you said about, and I had no idea. I'm sure the listeners have no idea unless they're climbers that you have to come back down a little bit every night. And I think that that is how any success track works, right? I mean, there's no such thing as just an uphill climb with no setbacks. Talk a little bit about
Correct.
that because I think it's so
Yes.
powerful.
So many people think the way you climb Mount Everest is you start at base camp and you climb to camp 1 and camp 2 and camp 3, get to camp 4 at the South Col, 26,000 feet, go for the summit. No, that is not how it works. You you're going to spend about 10 days hiking to base camp. Once you get to base camp, you spend a few days and nights there to get used to the altitude. And then after you spent time there to get used to the altitude, then you climb up to camp 1. Spend the night up at camp 1, and after you spend the night up there, it's about 19,500 feet. After you spend the night up there, you come back down to base camp again. And then you spend more time at base camp, and then you climb to camp 1, and then you climb up to camp 2, and after you get to camp 2, it's over 20,000 feet. After you spend the night up there, you climb all the way back down to base camp again. spend a few more nights at base camp, climb to camp one again, spend the night, climb to camp two again, spend the night. Then you're going to climb all the way to camp three. You're at almost 24,000 feet.
Wow.
Almost 24,000 feet. And then you come back down to base camp again. And the reason you keep coming back down to base camp is because you have to let your body get used to the altitude very slowly. It's this process called acclimatization. So if someone were to magically drop you off on the summit of Mount Everest, if you could be dropped at 29,000 feet by a plane or a helicopter, you'd be dead in a matter of minutes from the
Right.
altitude. So you have to move up the mountain really slowly, right, in order to help your body get used to the altitude, that acclimatization. But the crazy catch is that anytime you're above about 18,000 feet, which is going to be any camp above your base camp, anytime you're above 18,000 feet, your body is starting to deteriorate and your muscles are getting weaker. So it's this crazy catch 22 of wanting to spend time up high to get used to the altitude, but you have to keep coming back down low so you can eat, sleep, hydrate, and regain some strength. So, yes, it's physically challenging to be going up and up higher and down again, but it's also psychologically very, very challenging because the summit is this way, but you're spending a lot of time climbing this way, right? In the opposite direction. And it is such a good metaphor for business and for life because success is rarely, a straight, predictable path. Sometimes you're going to have to change directions. Sometimes you're going to have to back up a bit in order to eventually get to where you want to be. And so there's a phrase I use in all of my speeches that stays with me all the time, which is that backing up is not the same as backing down. Right? Sometimes progress doesn't always happen in the direction that we expect it to happen. Sometimes you're going to have to change direction in order to eventually reach your big goal. And so do not feel like you're losing ground when you're backtracking, right? You look at that as an opportunity to just regain your strength. So you're better when you come out of the gates the next time around.
I've thought about that so much just with my own personal decisions of saying no to things, of not being in too much of a hurry. And it's like, hey, I can go out and, go do a couple events, but then I'm going to come back home and I'm going to be
Yes.
home and I'm not going to miss these things. I'm going to be here. And then I'm going to go back out. And sometimes as a keynote speaker, there is like reps are a real deal. And when you get off if you're not on the stage for a month, I always get a little nervous going back out. And my husband always remembers, he's like, just so you know, the stage is your home base. He's like,
Yes.
it's not like you're going to forget what you're supposed to say. Like you wrote all the content yourself, but it is that like you come back and then you're like, okay, now I've got to go do this all over again.
Yeah.
And it's a lot, but I've used that, your words of wisdom to give me so much strength with those types of decisions. And one of the things that you talk about in your book specifically is ego, which is kind of what we're talking about right now, right? Of like the human ego of like, well, I already made it up this high, or I've already done this, and now to have to go back. It's very, very hard for human beings, I think, to do that in general. Talk a little bit about ego and then specifically this performance versus team.
Team ego, yeah. I want to just make one more comment to what you were saying about going up and coming down. The, what's interesting is the higher you go on the mountain, the more uncomfortable you feel, right? As you're
Right.
gaining elevation. So that's what's hard too, is as you're getting closer to your goal, you feel worse and worse and worse. It's not like
Right.
as you get closer, it's going to feel better. As you get closer, it's going to feel harder. So that's just an interesting, like mentally, you
Here,
gotta.
let's talk about what it felt like once you got up there. Like, I'm sure your body was in massive amounts of pain and, hardly being able to breathe. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I think well, first of all, you feel that adrenaline high and just that sense of
Yeah.
accomplishment when you get there. But also I just kept thinking this is halfway, right? We're not going to spend a lot of time celebrating up here because you have to get back down. So I
Yeah.
just
I
kept
never have thought
thinking,
of it that's halfway, but it is.
yeah,
Although it takes less time to get down,
it
right?
does. It does.
Okay.
Right, because you're losing elevation. But
Yeah.
going back to what you were saying about ego. So I learned this when I was fortunate enough to serve on the board of the Coach K Center on Leadership and Ethics. So, for any viewers, listeners who are not familiar with Coach K, he's the former head men's basketball coach at Duke University. and he's the winningest coach in the history of Division 1 men's college basketball. And I served on the board of the Coach K Center on Leadership and Ethics, so I got to interact with him a bit. And he was also, for anyone out there that doesn't care about college basketball, which I know is not you, Tara, because you care about it. They're
Very
Jayhawks.
much.
Um,
Rock chalk.
so Coach K was also the head men's basketball coach of the U.S. national team, our U.S. men's Olympic team, and they brought home several gold medals. So, he's a guy that knows about winning and knows about creating championship teams. And our board had a breakfast with him when they had come back from winning a gold medal in the Olympics. And we were talking to him about what he looks for when he's recruiting a team, because I thought, how do you figure out who you're going to put on the court, right? You have a big pool of incredibly talented players to pull from. Who do you want to play for you? And it was really interesting because Coach K said that when he is recruiting a team, what he looks for is ego. And I thought, right, because you don't want that. You got to get rid of those guys. You got to weed those guys out, right? Leave your ego at the door. And he said, no, you want ego. And I thought, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. And he went on to explain it, and then it actually made a ton of sense. He said that when he's putting together a team, there's two different kinds of ego that he looks for. The first is what he calls performance ego. He said, I want people who are good and who know that they're good. He said, I do not want LeBron James to come out onto my court and be a wuss. I need him to be LeBron James with all of the confidence that goes with him. And of course, feeling like you're good and you know that you're good. You're the person that can get the job done. It doesn't mean you're arrogant, although LeBron, but just kidding. But just knowing that sense of performance ego that Coach K talks about, performance ego. You're good and you know that you're good. Doesn't mean you treat people poorly. Doesn't mean you're arrogant. It doesn't mean you're condescending. It just means you're good and you know that you're good. And the second kind of ego that Coach K looks for is what he calls team ego. He said, I want people on my team who are going to be proud to be a part of something that collectively feels more important than the individuals alone. Right? Name on the front of the uniform, Team USA, is more important than the name on the back of the uniform, the individual name. And that made sense to me too, because I want to be climbing Mount Everest with people who are going to be more focused on the team than they are just focused on themselves and climbing into, selfishly and not looking out for the people around them and not willing to help out the people around them when they need help.
Yeah. I think that's so important. Well, obviously, as a college basketball fan, I would love to talk to him about right now about what NIL's done to team ego versus performance, the performance versus team ego, because
Yes.
I feel like
Fascinating.
it's ruining college sports in general, because these kids are more worried about their own performance and actually playing for the teams where, when I was in college, it was, well, 5 years ago, it was totally different, right? I mean,
Right.
it was very, very different. But
And
in,
also
I
social
think,
media now, right? You were just back then if you played a team sport, you were just focused on going to practice and giving it your all. And now athletes have to come home and post on social media and create content and do all of that stuff too. It just to me it feels overwhelming. But
yeah,
I know that's
yeah.
just young people today are used to doing that. It would be, everyone's a content creator and
Yeah, yeah.
it
Everyone,
feels like a lot.
everyone's an influencer, which,
Yes.
what I mean, really everyone is, right? I mean,
Yeah.
everyone's got these audiences online, and whether you have you influence 7,000 or 70,000 or seven or even one, like how we show up really, really,
Right.
really does matter.
Well, that really plays into the whole be who you came to be,
Yeah,
right? I mean, we all have the ability to influence people around us, not just online, but in person. And we should never underestimate that every single day we have an opportunity, right, to be an encourager for other people and to be the person that is there to support somebody who's struggling or having a hard time and we can all be the person to share a few kind words, when someone is going through something really difficult, and you don't need any special gear or training or budget for that. And yeah, That's why I love your whole "Be Who You Came to Be" because it just tells everybody who you are. Who you are is perfect. Who
Yeah,
you
and
are,
I
that's
talk
who
about
you
it.
came to be, and do not change it, and do not try to be like anybody else, and do not feel like you have to fit into somebody else's mold.
Yeah. Well, and I think that for so many people, understanding that you're ordinary is absolutely extraordinary. And, most of the
Yes.
time, the people who make the biggest difference in our lives, they're not, some superstar person, as far as what they have, 7 million followers. It's someone who loved you, someone who believed in you, someone who made your
Yes.
ordinary seem absolutely extraordinary. And and yeah, it's about kindness and love and acceptance for other people. It's like, hey, when
Yeah.
I always say, like, if you're being exactly who you came to be, you're not so worried about what anyone else is up to because you know that, like, hey, we're all different and there's enough success for all of us.
Right. Well, it's interesting because when I got back from Everest the second time, when I made it to the summit and I completed what's known as the Adventure Grand Slam, which is climbing the seven summits. That's the highest peak on every continent, and skiing to both the North and the South Pole. And so there weren't at the time when I did it, there were just a couple of people in the world that had done it. And so I there was a lot of media coverage. I was on the front page of the New York Times sports section. And so I had all these interviews and people would ask, like, what's next? What are you gonna do to top that? And I thought, well, why I don't have to top that. Why do I have to top that? Why do I have to do something to risk my life? Because they would say, well, how will you remain? I'd say, well, I don't really feel like I'm going to top that. I just want to maybe open a dog rescue for older labs and golden retrievers. And they would say, well, I mean, how will you remain relevant? I'm like, I'm just going to be a nice person. That's how I'm going to remain relevant. I should not have to do something that risks my life in order to remain relevant. And those questions really stung at my heart because I thought, why is anyone expecting me to do something riskier where I could die? And people would say, you should climb K2 solo in winter. And I'm like, you should climb K2 solo in winter. I do not need to risk my life in order to be relevant. I'm relevant every single day. When I have human interaction with people, we're all relevant. We all have an opportunity every day in the interpersonal, you know, communications that we have, the time when we get to interact with other people. We have an opportunity every day in those human interactions to have influence and to help encourage people to achieve the things that they want to achieve or help them get out of a slump or just cheer them up when they're feeling a little down. We have an opportunity to have great impact every day with the way we interact with other humans, and I think that we underestimate the power that we have in those interactions.
Well, and I'm a firm believer that be who you came to be. It doesn't mean like I don't believe that you, Allison, came to climb Mount Everest and that's
No.
it. Like that's just part of your journey to the. I mean, if you really want to get me woo woo and spiritual, I feel like being who we came to be is our entire time here on Earth, from the
Yes.
minute we were born until the minute we get to go to heaven. And I'm a Christian, and I truly believe that it's all part of this bigger design of our experience here. And I truly believe that it's not about us. It's about other people. It's about how we give to other people, how we love, how we show up, how we make other people feel.
Yes.
And I mean, like there's nothing better than like when you get to tell your story and then your story inspires someone else to either do something that they thought was impossible, to do something they thought they could never do, to
Right.
show up with kindness. I mean, the smallest interactions can have the biggest impact. And, I use the example of like going to the grocery store. Like, have you ever stop at a grocery store and you don't know your way around a grocery store? Like, like, I don't know about you, but I go to the same like two grocery stores all the time because I know where all the shit is in the store. Like, you have it. So, if you're like in a hurry and you have to stop at this grocery store and you don't know where anything is and you're running late and you can't find something and you go find a clerk and you're like, "Where is the bread?" Like, and you're just so frustrated. Like, that interaction does zero good. It's super, you're not mentally fit. You're not emotionally intelligent at that point in time because this person's there to serve and to help with the store. And so you can do the exact same thing by being like, oh my gosh, I'm hoping you can help me. I've never been in this store before. By the way, it's absolutely beautiful. Can you show me where the bread aisle is? That small interaction can not only have a huge difference on your life, but for you don't know what the store clerk might be going through.
Right.
And also, how much pride does that then give the store clerk that they get to help you in a way where they can maybe chat with you on the way or say something and it changes the way they feel about their job then and what they're doing. And these small interactions have such a big ripple effect in
They
life.
do. They really do.
Yeah. So let's talk about what you're up to now. Like, I'm sure, do you still enjoy hiking? You live basically right in the foothills of the mountains. So I'm sure that you ski and do all of that.
I love where we live. We live in a little town called Morrison, right by Red Rocks Amphitheater, and so we have easy access to the mountains and snowshoeing and all the fun winter sports. So it's so nice to be able to have all that stuff in my backyard, which is great. But I am working on a new project right now, and I'm going to say it on this podcast because that will mean I can't quit and I have to keep working on it. Even though at times I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? This is the dumbest idea ever. But I'm working on writing a one-woman show that I want to perform at theaters across the country about the my experience on my experience serving as the team captain for the American Women's Everest expedition, but also incorporating life lessons from all my other climbs. And also, I want to tell the story about my beautiful friendship with my friend Meg and what she meant to me. And when I'm on stages doing keynotes, of course, I'm focused on business takeaways. How can I make people better leaders, better
Yeah.
teammates, more resilient, more failure tolerant? How can I get them to be more innovative thinkers? There's just a lot of different takeaways, but I want to I'm writing this show so I can tell the personal side of my story and not
Oh
have
my
to
God,
worry
I
about
love
the
it.
business lessons and really get into the personal stuff and struggles, I grew up with two parents that suffered from mental illness, and there's a lot of dark stuff there, but a lot of very funny stuff there too. And so I want
Yeah.
to tell the dark personal stories and the funny personal stories, and I want to honor my girlfriend Meg and everything that she meant to me. So I'm writing this one woman show that I hope to be able to perform at theaters. And I was inspired by a show that's on Amazon Prime called What the Constitution Means to Me, that a woman, Heidi Schreck, did. And I saw her do this one woman show, and I thought I would love to do something like that. So
Oh
now
my
I'm doing it
gosh.
because I said it out loud on your podcast.
I love this. Well, you know that my background is in theater and voice. I actually went on scholarship to the University of Kansas for 2 years as a theater and voice major. And then
Wait, how did I not know that?
it's not a very widely known thing. After 2 years, I was like, I don't think I realized that I didn't want to like move to New York or LA and then try to fight, for my life to be an actress or to be on stage. And,
Right.
what's really interesting is the Be Who You Came to Be message was not in my life at that point in time. But when I think about what I'm doing, in my late 40s, everything I've done in my life, and same with you, like it's all set you up for this next step. If
Yes.
you're willing to take that one imperfect step every time and to shift and to pivot, and like I said, to really follow your intuition and your heart. The back part of the Be Who You Came to Be letter that my grandmother wrote, she said, "Be who you came to be. Love will guide you." And I've really let that love guide me my whole life. And, I still love theater. I love, musicals. My mom and I have season tickets to Broadway KC. We'd go to all the
I have
shows that
season
come through
tickets in
Kansas
Denver
City.
to Denver Center for the Performing Arts to see all
Oh
their
my
stuff.
God, we should catch up on this because I'm sure it's the same shows that travel.
Yeah.
And so, you are going to do this and you're going to be a smashing success. And what's going to be wild is it's not just going to be Broadway shows. Companies would be able to hire you. And like, I'm seeing a shift because my message, is sometimes people are like, oh, I don't think this message is corporate enough. Or what's the corporate takeaways? I'm like, well, we could go on and on about if you allowed your people to be exactly who they came to be and really got them to show up as their best self, personally and professionally, it would change the trajectory of your entire business. And I'm actually working on a new book right now called The Butterfly Goal Effect, which is when we start setting these goals for ourselves, personally and professionally, it changes the trajectory of not only our own success, but what we bring to the table from innovation standpoint, culture, belonging, all of that. And so obviously this show is technically a butterfly goal of like you're a caterpillar right now still, right? You're
Yeah.
writing it. You're like, how am I going to make it into? But I know it's going to be a smashing
Oh,
success.
thanks.
And the world loves stuff like this. I feel
Yeah.
like there's been this huge shift in people not just wanting that corporate talk, you know?
Yeah, and there was also like a lot of dark shit that went on Everest that I don't talk about in my speeches that just unbelievable stuff like just abuse on the mountain and sabotaging our equipment. There's a lot of stuff that went on that I want to share with the world that I've never shared. There were a lot of challenges there that no one used to talk about this stuff until was it last year? I think it was about a year and a half ago. An article came out in the New York Times about all the
Yes, I
abuse.
remember this article.
Yeah, I was interviewed for that article, and I didn't give too many details, but um, there's a lot of d- challenging. Besides you're in this environment, on a mountain that could kill you. We faced a lot of other challenging things that made it even scarier. So I want to tell the real story of all the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the very, very personal side of it that I don't really talk about on stage very often.
Oh, I love this. This is so brave and so fun. So, do you actually? Well, you're gonna go on tour. Like you're gonna have this
I
whole
hope that's my
amazing thing.
dream.
Okay, so it's your butterfly goal. It's happening. Do you follow Kristen Cavallari?
No,
Okay, so I'm doing my book tour events at her stores, which is called Uncommon James, and
I did saw that.
she was on
I
Laguna
saw that.
Beach, the
Yeah, I know
hills,
who
all
she
those.
is, of course, but
Yes.
I just don't
And
follow
so
her.
she started a tour doing like kind of like taking her podcast on the show on the road and live, and people freaking love it because they get, completely unapologetically authentic Kristen Cavallari in her element doing her thing. And it's like she's like, look, this is my fucking show. I can make this show whatever I want.
Yeah.
And that's why people love it because it's not someone else telling her what to do or what to say or what it should be like. Like she just got to create it all herself.
Right. Well, that's why even you see a lot of people leaving mainstream media and starting their own podcasts, on YouTube, on Spotify, on all the platforms, because they want to be able to do the show that they want to do and they don't want a network dictating what they can and cannot say and what they have to focus on.
Right.
And those
Right.
those people that have left mainstream media have much bigger platforms now than they did when they were
Oh,
on air.
so much bigger,
Yeah.
so much bigger. I absolutely love that. And, I think for me, just with my platform and the Be Who You Can Be message, I mean, people like, so do you want to be a keynote speaker? And I'm like, well, that's just part of it. Like I have so many bigger
That's one
aspirations of
piece of
like
the puzzle.
it's just one way to share the message.
Right.
And for me, it's not about being a keynote speaker. It truly is this mission driven message that I've seen change so many lives and really give people their self-regard back, their tenacity back, their willingness to like believe in themselves beyond reason
Yes.
and to be like, yeah, I get one shot at this life. Like I'm going to
Yeah.
climb Mount Everest or I'm
That's what
going
I'm
to
saying. Like,
create this or I'm going to write my own show. Like we have to start it with that one imperfect step. And the thing is, and you know this better than anyone, like nobody cares about your success more than you. And if you want it, you got to make it happen.
right. Yeah, we get one life, one shot. I mean, look, maybe we get more. Like I was saying, who knows? Who knows? It'd be nice to think that we will be reincarnated and we get more than one shot. But as far as I know, we get one shot. That's what I know for sure. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Ben Nempton, who's a friend of mine, who's an
I
amazing
love
keynote
Ben.
speaker. I know. And his whole thing is when you die, you don't want your dreams to be buried with you.
Yeah, it's so true. Like, and I think that, it's interesting, this whole thing with this butterfly goal effect that I'm working on. What's so interesting is we spend most of our younger lives trying new things, doing things, dreaming. What do you want to be? What do you want to do? And the sky is the limit. We all want to do it. And then we get into like, oh my God, we actually have to start living life. Like we have to start going and making a career and doing all this. And we feel like we should have arrived. Like we should have had it figured out. And what I remind people is like, you're never going to arrive. Like you will never reach some certain point in life and then coastal land. Just like you, like your whole mission in life was not to climb Mount Everest and then be like, and that's it. Like that was just the sounding board for all these other things that you get to start doing. And when we give ourselves that type of permission back, it changes everything. And I say like, it's called a midlife crisis for a reason. And I think that that's the reason people have midlife crises is because they feel like they should have arrived and had it figured out, where really they just stop giving themselves permission to take these imperfect steps to be
Right.
who they came to be and try new things.
And of course, before I climbed Mount Everest, like I had climbed peaks all over the world, like dozens and dozens of expeditions where things went well and things didn't go well. And um, I realized the highest mountain in the world isn't the end all be all. It's not the biggest thing I'm going to do in my life. I hope it's not anyway,
It's not.
because it's just
Yeah.
standing on top of a pile of rock and ice. That's what climbing Mount Everest is. And
It is badass though. Like, let's give yourself credit. I don't even like the cold. Like, just so you know, I don't like extreme weather. I remember when we were kids, we did this play called How to Eat Like a Child, and there was all this funny like kid stuff in it. And one of the questions was, would you rather freeze to death or be burned alive? And like people are back and
freeze
forth,
to
like freeze to
death.
death. Oh no, wait, be burned alive. Freeze to death. It takes a long time to freeze to death.
I know, but then you like when you're almost dead, then they say like you feel really warm and you have beautiful like
Oh.
visions. Oh, I'm freeze to death, a hundred
You're freeze
percent,
to death?
a hundred
Okay, so
percent.
before we leave, let's give everyone who struggles in the cold. So some people say cold is a state of mind. This is what my kid used to say when he didn't want to wear a jacket to school when it was 10 degrees. Like, it's a state of mind. I'm like, not really. Like, you can get frostbite. But next time I'm freezing my ass off, give me the mental flip, the shift.
Just think this is temporary. Just remember any discomfort. That's what I remind people about any discomfort, whether you're freezing your ass off or something. This is temporary. And you can
Okay.
get through any amount of discomfort on a temporary basis. I'll tell you, one of my hardest expeditions was this 600-mile ski traverse to the South Pole. We got dropped off at the edge of the Western Antarctic ice shelf and skied to the South Pole. And it's Antarctica is the coldest, windiest place on Earth. And it was almost 2 months on that expedition, every single day, like freezing cold every single day. And it's never going to warm up. It's not, it's just, you're going to just be
Right.
cold and uncomfortable every day for 2 months. But I just counted down the days. Like even 2 months is just temporary. After this, I'm going to go home and be in my warm, comfy bed, snuggling with my dog and my
I
husband.
love that. I love that. It's just temporary. See, I'm very strongly considering doing 75 hard in January. Our friend Gail Davis just did 75 hard. I was
She
so
did
freaking
it? I
proud of
didn't
her.
know she did it.
Oh my God. She did. And then she went and climbed Machu Picchu.
I
That was
know, I
like
saw
her,
that.
that was her like finale. I'm like, okay, go big or go home. Like that's pretty badass too.
I
Yeah,
didn't
she
know
did
she did
75 hard.
75 hard. Yay, Gail Davis. That's amazing.
I know. I'm like, Gail, damn you. I've always wanted to do it. And now you've done it. So how can I be like, well,
Yeah.
inspire? Like that's what happens, right? Other people inspire us to do it. So what's your final takeaway before we wrap the show?
I think my final takeaway for people is this is something that I have to keep in mind every time I'm on a section of a mountain that makes me feel some anxiety and some fear. I want people to remember that you can be scared and brave at the same time. You can. You can be scared and brave at the same time.
Yeah. And don't you think when you're scared like that, it's because it's something that matters to you?
Yeah.
Like you wanted that. Like you wanted that. And you knew that like I can do it.
You just use your fear as a way to propel you forward. So fear doesn't have to be something that paralyzes you. Use fear to your advantage. For me, fear keeps me awake, alert, aware of everything going on around me. Fear actually keeps me in a safer space. And then again, you can be scared and brave at the same time. Fear's fine. Just do not let it paralyze you. Feel that fear and move forward anyway.
I love it. One imperfect step at a time.
Yeah.
Allison, I love you. Thank you
I
so
love
much for
you
coming on my
back.
podcast. You're absolutely amazing. And I'm going to be at the debut. Mark my damn word. As soon as you get this show written and you get your first one, I'm coming.
I'm sending you comp tickets and you can sit in the front row.
I'm coming. I'm coming. Let me know. And you know what? If you need, I will find a theater here in Kansas City and we'll put it on
Okay.
and we'll sell the tickets and we'll do the whole damn thing.
Okay. I'll
Yes,
do
I
it.
love it. I'm proud of you. I'm proud to call you friend.
I'm proud to call you a friend.
Yeah. All right. Keep shining. Be who you came to be.
Love you.
Love you too. Bye bye.